How's it going, Caleb?
It's going good, Matt. How are you?
Good.
Good.
So, Caleb, welcome to the show.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
Caleb is a regular here at my barber shop, so it's really cool to have him on. We always talk about stuff that is not the simple stuff.
Yeah.
I forget what you said one time, Caleb, but it was really funny. Who wants to talk about the weather?
Oh yeah, exactly. Yeah. Who has time for small talk?
Who has time for small talk?
Yep.
We don't.
Yep, exactly.
There have been times that Caleb's cried, times that I've cried, and I love that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
But so Caleb, you are a worship leader by trade.
Yep, that's my gig.
But you also, I found you to be a very honest person, a very open person, a person that's not trying to put people in a box, and a person that really values the person behind the issues.
Yeah,
you know?
Absolutely.
And whether that's a little issue or a big issue, you're always worried about the person. And I love that about you, and that's why I wanted to have you on here to talk.
Yeah, sweet.
So Caleb, what haircut are you going for?
Yes, I'm trying to keep length here because it is winter still, and I'm not ready to cut my beard off. So let's keep the beard long. And actually, normally I do a skin fade, but let's keep it longer on the sides too. Okay. Just like trim it up, but keep length.
So longer meaning like you still want it to be stubble on the sides, but just not to skin? Or you want to keep it pretty close to where it's at and just trim it up?
Yeah, just trim it up, but keep it pretty close to where it's at, rather than go full stubble, I think.
Yeah, and we'll just kind of clean up some of here where it's getting a little curly.
Yeah.
And then, trim up the top a little bit, and sweet.
I like it.
Yeah. So the topic that we want to kind of talk a little bit about is church hurt. Mm-hmm. And there's a lot of people that have dealt with some really hard things in the church setting or outside of the church setting from the church. So what is your thought on this topic?
Well, I appreciate you saying that, like the idea of seeing the person behind the issue. Yeah. Because I think that really is like so important to me, and I think that that's such like something that people have such a difficult time doing. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think like for anyone that believes anything about anything, like no one believes things because they think that they're wrong. Mm-hmm. And everyone that has any stance on any kind of an issue thinks that they're right about what they believe. Mm-hmm. And so I like really love the process of listening to someone and really hearing like what the reasoning behind their beliefs are. Even more so than like trying to figure out what somebody believes. Because I think a lot of times we as people find it really easy to, like when we get into a conversation with someone that maybe we don't know, or if it's with somebody that we do know but we're going into some kind of territory that we haven't talked about before, we're looking for like, how can I pin this person into a box of what their belief system is? Yeah. So I grew up in church my whole life. I grew up in Christian school. I work at a church. Like I'm very in Christian culture, and I love the church so much, but I think that we, myself included, do that really, really easily with faith, where even if it's not with like, are you a Christian or not, but even if it's with other people that are Christians, like we're just so interested in trying to figure out what box are you in, like what kind of identifying words can I put on you and label you so that I can know where I agree or disagree with you.
Yeah, and I think that's kind of a cultural thing right now, that everyone wants you to be to fit a mold, whether that's politically, whether that's religious wise. They want you to be in a certain. And I think it comes out of a place of wanting to be understood and wanting to understand. Right. So it's one thing to actually understand someone. It's another thing to try to force understanding upon someone.
Yes. Oh my gosh. Right. Yeah. And I definitely think that there's health in like labels, and there's health in like boxes, and it's, I think, for any kind of, for any kind of relationship with someone that's more than just small talk, like it's healthy to say, like, what do you believe?
Yeah.
Or about God, or about the world, or about people, to understand where you're coming from. I just think that it's so easy for us to say, I know that I believe what I believe because I think I'm right.
Yeah.
And so anyone that disagrees with me must believe it for a dumb reason. And that's just so, I don't know, it's so dangerous. And I think that, I don't know, I just think of moments where I've taken the time to try to really hear why someone's upset about something or why someone's angry about something. And so often it's more than just some basic issue.
Yeah. Yeah, I think a lot of times you see, oh, someone's really lashing out at something, or someone's really just being really controlling over a situation, or someone's just being rude.
Yeah.
And sometimes, some people just suck.
Yeah. Yeah.
But other times, and most times, there's things that are going on that are deeper that you don't understand.
Yeah.
Yeah. Something I found to be really helpful when in conversation with someone that you either disagree with, or you think they're doing something dangerous to themselves, or you think that they could be improving in what they're doing.
Yeah.
Is to ask them, so I noticed this, tell me about that.
Yeah.
Or what is your thought on this?
Yeah.
And it gives them the opportunity to talk about something before going into defense mode. Because whenever you kind of tell someone, oh, this is what I see and you got to change this, they immediately go in defense mode and will most likely go in the opposite way of what you're thinking.
Yeah.
But I think it's so helpful to actually have that place where you stop and say, hey, what are your thoughts here?
Absolutely. And I think it's really important for me, because it's so easy for me to try and figure out, like, what's the best way for me to convince someone of what I believe. Like, I love debates, and I love when somebody says, oh, Caleb, you're right about that, obviously.
Feels great.
But of course. So, but it's really difficult for me, and I try really hard to make sure that I'm not using this as just like a tactic to convince somebody to think the same way that I do. But at the same time, I think that when you empathize with someone and when you really understand what they're thinking, like, communicating how you feel and what you think and what you believe becomes so much easier, because you're not talking past each other, but you're really understanding each other. And by default, I think that naturally will just make you more, like, compelling to someone in the way that you're communicating. And it also helps you learn. So you're not just talking points at someone, and you're actually understanding them.
Yeah. And I think that's cool, is like that you might never convince someone, but at least they'll know they're loved.
Yeah.
And at least they'll know that you chose to care about them over trying to convince them.
Yeah. Exactly. And oh man, I was just talking to some people, and I was asking my friend, how do I go about interacting with this person? Because there was somebody that I wanted to call out on how he was acting in a certain setting. Yeah. And so I was talking to my other friend, and I was like, I'm going to go and confront them about this. How do you think what's my best tactic for going about confronting them? And I'm so glad that I have people in my life that are wise and call me on things. And he said, how about you talk to him and start by asking, hey, how's your life been? Like, how are you doing? Is there anything going on in your life? And that maybe, exactly like you just said, that maybe what's going on is not that they're, like, acting in the most rational way or the most calculated way, but maybe they're just reacting to things that are going on in their life. Yeah. And approaching conversations with care and concern for the other person, and not in a way where it's like, here's two opposing ideas about the world, and let's argue about them. Mm-hmm. That's not how effective, healthy relationships happen.
Yeah. And I think, tell me your thoughts on this, but I feel like a lot of how we communicate with each other is determined by our motives for that conversation. So if you're coming at that conversation to fix that person so that they're easier to deal with, then that's maybe you need to refocus your intention. But if you're actually concerned about that person, I think that's where you have a little bit more actual change, good change.
Yeah. And I think, so there's in the concept of church hurt, I think the problem is that there's, for some reason, this weight that I know that I have put on myself, and that I know a lot of Christians put on ourselves, a weight to kind of be the voice of God to people and tell people so often what's wrong with them, which it's so sad that the default when we think be the voice of God to people, at least for me, the default is so quickly to tell them what they're doing wrong, and not a voice of encouragement or of care or love or being the voice of God to people. I think would much more often look like compassion and kindness. But obviously there is God has a very clear set of what it looks like to be whole and what it looks like to be healthy, so that's in there too. But I just think that we as people are so quick to decide, oh, my job is this, before someone has asked for it.
Yeah.
And that just doesn't work. Regardless of whether, I don't know, I just think it's not effective.
Yeah. And I think the other side of that too is that when you, as a leader, especially in a church leader, I've seen it, when there's that assumption of I need to be this voice of God, it's not only I need to be the voice of reason or bring across the truth from God's word, but it's I need to be perfect.
Yeah.
So that these people have a good example, and so they're not turned away from what God has for them.
Yeah.
And I think what that creates, and tell me how you've reacted to this. But does it make it hard as a church leader to make mistakes?
Mm-hmm. So I've been on staff at church for is it 8 years now? Holy Hannah! I've been on. I started volunteering, and then I started part-time on staff 8 years ago. And I'm really, really proud of the culture at the church that I work at, which is CEFC in Strausstown. Because there is so much, there's so much space to be human and to make mistakes and to grow from our mistakes, especially internally, inside of the staff culture. But people just naturally have an expectation for a pastor or someone that works at a church to be perfect.
Yeah.
And it's in all different kinds of ways. It's in how you speak, or what you do or don't participate in, or the way that you interact with people in public, or all that different kind of stuff. The feelings you have about people or ideas and things like that. Everyone automatically puts you in their own box when you work at a church that is what they think it is.
Yeah.
But I don't know. I think that when we put on ourselves the weight of trying to be the voice of God to people and trying to control people, or trying to force them to do what we think is right for them. When we put that weight on ourselves, it's impossible to not be overwhelmed by that. Because like you said, like as soon as I convince myself that my job is to do that for somebody else, then I better not make a single mistake, or else I'm not living up to that internally. And I think that there's plenty of people, and I have been the kind of person in my life at times when I convince myself of that, and then people can feel that really easily, where I don't know, then I can heap guilt on people with this like underlying assumption that I have it all figured out and that I don't make mistakes and that I don't have issues. And as soon as we get into that place, I think it's just really, really dangerous, and it's not healthy for us or for the people that are around us.
Yeah, for sure. And I remember when I was younger, growing up in the church, I thought that, oh, you need to have this like really perfect image so that people don't go astray, or people, you know, whatever the terminology would be, so that people stick with the faith, you know. So they, and I think there's a lot of Christians who think, oh, if I show my bad side, or if I show my struggles, that coworker or that person that I know will somehow think that Christianity is a sham, and it can't be. It's not actually helping anybody. But I don't know. What would you say that your perspective is? I know I have a perspective, but what is your perspective on like someone who is outside of Christianity? What they see when they look at someone who is either being fake so they look good, or being honest and they have mistakes.
I think that's like a thing in general for people across the board, whether we're talking about church stuff or whether we're talking about normal life stuff, because like social media naturally makes it so that all of us have a perceived image that we get to control. And obviously, like, normal life is that way anyway. Like, I can choose what I say, I can choose what I look like, I can choose the things that I do, and so I get some version of control of who I am. But like social media makes it so easy for things to be fake, and nobody likes fake. Like, nobody. Fake is gross, and it is embarrassing. And when you get caught and you're fake, and when you get found out as a fake, no matter what good things you said, all of that just gets underlined and is so, all your credibility goes out the window. I think it's it's just so toxic to paint a picture that life can be perfect. And it's so toxic to paint a picture like I don't have anything going on, especially when the way that we relate to people as human beings is through our mutual understanding of our struggles and our mutual understanding of our pain and our trauma and the way that we hurt and the things that we're wrestling with and the way that we feel insecure about things. And when we pretend not to have that, like, things are just so shallow. I love it. Like, things can be so shallow because no one trusts anyone else to be able to say, like, this is where I'm really at. This is what's really hurting me right now, or this is what I'm really wrestling with, or what I'm afraid of, or what I have doubts about.
And I was talking to my brother about this, and he was saying how, like, there's a lot of people that aren't just open in general, but the people that are the general population, if they're struggling with something, they'll just kind of say it. If they watch pornography, they're just going to say, I watch pornography. But somehow if a pastor says, hey, I struggle with pornography and I don't watch it, but every once in a while it comes into my mind. And I almost turn it on and then I turn it off. Or maybe I've turned it on a couple times. And I've had an open conversation with my wife or the people around me, and it's not a part of my life, but I've struggled with it.
Right.
That's just not a place where a lot of Christians are willing to talk about, especially in a type of leadership position. But
Yeah. I just think that we all long as people, not as Christians or as non-Christians, but as people, we are built to desire relationships where our honesty and our vulnerability is accepted and loved.
Mm-hmm.
And so all of us are wishing and hoping that we had someone or a group of people that we could be our honest selves with.
Yeah.
And that would be received with love and kindness and compassion and understanding.
Mm-hmm.
And the second that gets undermined by someone,
mm-hmm.
and trust is broken, whether it's by a group of Christians that are like they treat you differently after they know something about you,
mm-hmm.
or do they tell, or like worse, they like gossip about it and tell other people about it.
Mm-hmm.
Whether it's that, or whether it's just that you lose a relationship with someone because you revealed a part of yourself to them and they didn't like it.
Yeah.
Like that hurts us in this deep, deep way.
Mm-hmm.
Because I think we just desire like love, real love, regardless.
Mm-hmm.
That's not based on the conditions of what we do or how we act or how we think. And I don't know, it's very, very rare that there's people that you can be honest with and you can really open up completely to, that it doesn't, I don't know, it doesn't come back to bite you.
Yeah.
And I'm so lucky that I have people like that in my life.
Mm-hmm.
And for me, I've found them in the church, in our church community.
Yeah.
So it's not like, it's just, there's, I don't know, I think it can be tempting to kind of group everyone into like a box.
Mm-hmm.
But I have two people in my head right now that I know that I could say absolutely anything to.
Mm-hmm.
Not even just about what I do, but like about things that I think about or thoughts that cross my mind. And I'm sure that there's nothing I could say that would change the love that they have for me.
Yeah.
And it's unconditional. And that's such a, I don't know, it's like an overwhelming feeling.
Yeah.
To be loved like that. And I think that we all want to be loved like that.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. How would you say because I can say the same thing about a couple people in my life that I'm super grateful for. But how would you kind of, would you say that you always had those people in your life? Or would you say that you had to cultivate them somehow?
Mm-hmm. Well, there's probably there definitely is, because I can only think of two. And I really can only think of two now. Even though there's a lot of people that I trust and there's a lot of people that I love and that I know love me. Mm-hmm. But like that level of like I could say anything to, that's a short list of people that aren't my family. Because like, and not everyone's family is this way, but my family, my two sisters, my dad and my mom are like, through anything for sure. So that's not those two people, but I'm lucky enough to have an incredible family that loves me a lot.
That's awesome.
But besides my family, there's a much longer list of people that I've said something to thinking I could trust them. Yeah. And then realized I couldn't.
Whoops. Yeah, I've been there.
Exactly. And that's not always even like they betrayed my trust. It's just like, they didn't actually want to know the depths of my soul in the way that I was ready to share with them. Or they weren't actually just okay with that. And I don't think a lot of those people know that I felt that way with them. I think a lot of those people just reacted in a way that made me be like, I don't know if I can be this person with you. Which is sad.
Yeah.
But
now, how would you say that, because I would say that you're one of those people in my life that I don't see really outside of the barber chair.
Right.
But that I would talk about what some of the most crazy stuff with, and the thoughts in my head that I won't tell most people.
Sure.
Because of the type of person you are, how would you say that you cultivate that as a person to be that opening for other people?
I think I don't have a problem saying things that disagree with people. Like if we're talking and we disagree, that's not a big issue for me. And so I think a lot of times I'll say things in a way that makes people be like, oh, he doesn't really care what he says right now. So there's that side where trying to learn how to become a person that's like actually okay with disagreeing with someone, and that doesn't make you like freak out and argue or get angry. I'm so disappointed in myself for the amount of times that I've responded in anger to someone who disagrees with me instead of just trying to understand them.
Yeah, 1 second. Trim it off the lip.
Yeah. Yeah. The thing that makes people want to be honest with me is that I'm so quick to be honest with them, for sure. That's that's the number one thing that makes people feel safe, is when people realize that you're trying to take this conversation out from, let's just talk about the weather, to here's a place where I'm at that's confusing to me, and I don't saying I don't know. Having not trying to present myself as someone who has all the answers, but being okay and happy to be someone who's in process, is so incredibly important to me. And I think that just makes people feel safe to also not be finished and not feel like they have to be right about everything.
That's really good.
Yeah, but I don't know. There's still things in me somewhere that I don't know yet, or I haven't found yet, where I'm not even sure how much I'm just sure that I'm right about this, and no one can convince me otherwise. And when I find stuff like that in myself, I work really hard to try to understand it and at least become more open-minded.
Yeah.
So
that's awesome. So let me show you your haircut real quick.
yeah, let's see it.
Is that what you're thinking?
It looks great. Yeah, I love the length on the sides. It's fantastic.
Sweet.
Heck yeah.
Sounds good, man.
Great.
So it would be kind of your closing thoughts to someone who's either dealt with church hurt, or someone who's trying to not hurt people that are going through something that is harder to deal with, that is outside of the normal church mentality.
Yeah, I think it's just important that all of us don't see people as just like a caricature of their belief system.
Yeah.
Whether that means the way I see a Christian or the way I see a non-Christian, that we don't box them, but we let them be individuals, and we try to understand them instead of trying to convince them of our perspectives.
And I'm sure you've received your share of critiques because that you are outspoken and you've dealt with a bunch of different things in your life.
Yeah.
How have you kind of kept the faith, stuck with it? I think you kind of pointed it out a little earlier, but what would be kind of your encouragement to someone who is feeling really bummed about how Christians have been treating them?
Yeah. Number one, I'm sorry to you that Christians have treated you that way, and I've both unfortunately been that Christian to people at times in my life, and I've definitely been hurt by Christians in that way, and non-Christians.
Yeah, just by
like people hurt people, and but don't abandon Jesus just because of the way that people who follow Jesus act. And also, I guarantee you there are people that you can have that kind of a relationship with, and it takes time and it takes trust, and unfortunately sometimes that means that there's hurt, but I'm positive that it's worth it for me to have found the relationships with the people that I have.
Yeah. Thanks, Caleb.
Yeah, thanks, Matt.
Product in your hair?
Yes, please.
Do you like the dry look?
Yeah. I talked about you on stage once, Matt. Did I tell you that?
I don't think so.
I was like doing like I don't know, I was just trying to say something that related to people. I was like, hey guys, how's it going? My name's Caleb. I'm 25 years old and I'm balding like a crazy person. And I said, you know you're balding when your barber says, hey, you should really consider plugs. The technology has come such a long way that it might be, like people might not even notice if you start now. But then obviously I told
That's so funny.
the entire church. So
I didn't say plugs, I said a hairpiece.
You did say hairpiece, I'm sorry. It's all the same.
It's okay. They don't know.
Brain.
That's so funny. I've been actually talking to people about plugs, and like I do not think it's a good idea.
Really?
Like it's just such a waste of money.
Plugs. Plugs is like
when they
you surgically implant hair.
Yeah, from other spots of your skull.
Oy.
But like it doesn't always work.
Right. So
and
then
you
just
spend
had
so much money.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's kind of crazy.
Who did I think I was listening to a YouTuber or something who in Turkey it's really cheap to do hair transplants.
Oh really?
And they like, I guess a lot of people like fly there. So who knows? A flight to Turkey might be cheaper.
Oh man. Okay.
Easy enough.
I am a communist.
I am a communist.
This is how we'll start
I'm a
the
wholehearted.
video.
Yeah, welcome to the Communist Podcast.
Oh man.